So mistake number 7 that I've made in my business is being too flexible when negotiating rates. So to share a personal story about how I came to realize that is there was a client that I was working with who referred me to a friend of his. And then when I went to go work with that client, one of the things that I ended up telling him was, hey, normally this work that you're asking for me to do is going to cost like this much, but because you're a referral of mine, then it's going to cost this much. And that seems like a good thing to do in theory, at least that's what I was thinking at the time. But one of the things that I started to realize is that when you start offering discounts or working your rates down for whatever given reason, then some clients will start to expect that from you on every single project that you're working on. So it was actually a little bit hard to actually raise my prices from that point, because as I got a little bit more experience with working with this client, I was thinking to myself like, wow, this amount of money that I charge is really not really enough to actually fulfill it and make the profit margin that I personally want to make. It should really cost this much. And then because I set that bar a little bit lower with that client, it was actually a little bit harder to actually raise my prices later. So with that specific client, because we had an ongoing relationship and then he started booking me for more videos, I would package it together, and then basically that's what eventually drove the cost up. And he was willing to pay more because he was offering more work. And while I was working with that client, because he was such a good client, I would always be kind of flexible in what exactly I was charging. Sometimes I would be like, oh, it's going to cost this much. Like, can you do it for this? I'll be like, okay, fine. And then that me being flexible like that basically got him to expect me to always being that flexible with him basically got him to expect that every time I give a quote, he'll try to say, can you do it for this much? Then I would just say yes. And that was because in my mind, it was because, well, this is a good client. I'll be flexible with him because I want to work with him in the long term. But then now I feel like every single time I want to raise the price, or I send him a price where it's a little bit more updated to where I would want it to be, there's always some sort of reason to, hey, can we just bring it down to this? And then it makes it really hard to actually get the actual rates that I want to get. And then in order for me to actually charge more, then I have to basically just offer more work in order to get that. Sometimes that can be a little bit harder with clients that are a little bit more rigid. And I'm just trying to find ways to, how do I get the price up higher so that it's still worth it for me to actually work with this client. But since they're very stuck on this price now, and because I was too flexible, like it makes it a little bit harder to actually do that. Or another example that I can give, when I was freelancing, sometimes when a producer would give me a project, they would ask me for my rate and I would give them a certain price. One of the things that I would follow up with after that is it's negotiable. And that's a very dangerous kind of territory to be in, because if you end up becoming the guy who's always negotiable, you're almost never going to actually get the rate that you actually want to get, because in the person that's hiring you's mind, they're going to be thinking, oh, well, this guy is quoting this much. He's always open to me working the price down. So I'm just going to try to work him down, see how far lower I can actually get him. And then basically where that ends up leaving me is just never getting the rate that I actually want because I'm being too flexible. So not having that assertiveness when you're actually giving your quotes, it really just shows a lack of confidence in your own ability. It's like you feel the need to, there's a sense of desperation because you're just like, well, I really need the work. So if this is too much for him, then I don't mind going a little bit lower. That's when you start heading into the direction of survival mode, which I'm sure by this point in the video, you've learned that you should try to avoid. And then when you get to a point where you progressively want to start growing your business and actually hiring more people or taking on more projects, being too flexible, it's just going to be introducing more headaches into your business. the overhead is going to be higher, your profit margin is going to be lower. It's going to be harder to actually get the pieces or the things that you actually need to get in order to complete the project while still maintaining like a good profit margin. Along with lowering the price, I also just did not touch any of the deliverables. Like, let's say for example, I quoted 10K for something for X amount of deliverables, and then they worked me down to like 9, for example, then basically it's going to cost more money to fulfill it. I'm going to have a lower profit margin on the project as a whole. Basically, it just makes it a little bit harder to actually run your business because you're not making the margin that you need to get to invest into the things that you want to build, and then your overhead is going to be a lot higher. So overall, it just makes it a lot more difficult. So now what I actually do is anytime a client wants to negotiate with me on a lower price, then I start removing the deliverables that I'm going to be giving them. So that way I can lower the price and then deliver on less deliverables, and then I can make roughly the same amount of money as I would if they were to actually just do the original quote. Whether you are a beginner videographer or a more advanced one, I'm sure all of you guys have gone through the experience of feeling like a disposable videographer to your clients, not having a portfolio that's strong enough to qualify you for higher paying jobs. Clients always choosing the cheaper option over you. That is because 99% of videographers are too busy sitting there staring at their phone, hoping and praying that somebody calls to give them a gig today. And as a result, you're struggling to make a living as a full-time creative. I went through the exact same struggles. I was stuck in a cheap client cycle where I was working on a bunch of low-paying projects and just nobody really seeing the value in my work. And it was my dream to be able to get out of that cycle and start working on projects that were creatively fulfilling to me. That is why I created the Commercial Videographer Blueprint. It is the exact same framework that I use to land my dream clients, grow my video production business, and work on more creatively fulfilling projects. This exact same framework is what I used to be able to land one of my dream projects, where I was able to film a documentary that had Tony Hawk in it. In this course, you are going to learn how to create a portfolio that attracts your dream clients, learn how to get their attention, and then learn how to get them to see the value in your work, and learn how to get them to think that it is completely insane for them to work with anybody else. And you can get all of this today for $147. And to be completely transparent with you guys, this is my very first course. So this is going to be the beta launch of this course. What that means for you is you are going to get access to this content for a much cheaper price than I plan on selling it in the future. And you will have the opportunity to leave feedback on how I can actually improve the course. And as I'm taking all that feedback and creating a better version of this course, early supporters will be getting access to that new content for free, while new people will have to pay the updated price. And don't worry, if you guys think that the course is trash and you didn't get any sort of benefit out of it, then I also offer a no questions asked 30-day money back guarantee. So if you're ready to stop struggling as a videographer and you're ready to take control of your business and finally get clients to see the value in your work, then click on the link in the description below to learn more.